I knew I was getting screwed the minute they moved my desk. Not to a corner office or a window seat. No, they shoved me next to the janitor's closet on the 8th floor. The hallway smelled like pine sol and hot printer ink. 14 years at Fordham and Cross Analytics. And this was what I got. A metal desk with a chair that squeaked every time I shifted my weight. Half the lights above me flickered. No one said a word. My name's Matt Langston. I'm 49, divorced, 2 kids in college, and the guy they call when something breaks. Broken data models, corrupted customer files, forecasting tools that implode before a client meeting. I'm the one patching it all back together, while some idiot in a tailored suit takes the credit in front of the board. Every performance review was the same. Highly dependable, lacks leadership presence. Which was corporate for, you're not invited to the golf course, but don't quit. We still need you to clean up our messes. They never gave me the good accounts, just the broken ones. I rebuilt 2 7-figure projects from scratch after interns wrecked the original code base. Not one thank you. Just a glad you had time to fix that as they ran to catch their flights to client summits. Then came Stevenson, a $22 million beast to overhaul analytics for a 300-store retail chain. Everything. Inventory logic, customer segmentation, predictive models. It was the kind of job you either made your career on or got fired over. No in between. I was shocked when Alan Pierce, our CEO, mentioned me on the kickoff call. "This one's high stakes," he said, "and Matt Langston will be critical to this engagement. No one knows the bones of this company like he does." I felt the words hit. Not just Matt will assist or Matt's looped in. Critical. For the first time in a long time, I let myself believe maybe, just maybe, the years of invisible work were about to mean something. I knew the system better than anyone. Knew where the bugs were buried, which dashboards were duct taped together with shortcuts, which numbers were fluff. I stayed late that night, reviewed the current models, made a list of everything we'd need to rebuild from scratch. This was the chance. Not just a raise. I could finally hit VP. Maybe even get my own team instead of being the guy who always picked up the leftovers. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. It was a Thursday morning when the company-wide email hit. Subject line, Strategic Talent Acquisition. Please welcome Bryce Keenan. I clicked it, and right there at the top was his photo. Perfect haircut, skin that had never seen a fluorescent bulb, and a suit that cost more than my monthly mortgage. That smirk. The kind of face you see at keynote speeches. Not in the trenches of data hell. Bryce Keenan, 35. Transformation expert. Used to work for our biggest competitor. I Googled him out of curiosity and found 3 TEDx talks and a LinkedIn feed full of buzzwords like synergy flywheel and future-proofing teams, whatever that meant. 3 days earlier, I was critical to the engagement. Now, some Harvard golden boy was parachuting in to drive strategy. Monday morning, we had our all hands. Alan stood at the front, hands folded, trying to sell it like a win. Bryce brings the big picture vision we need for the Stevenson engagement. He'll be leading the initiative moving forward, then the kicker. Matt will handle all technical implementation. That word, handle, hit harder than I expected. Not lead, not drive, handle. Like I was being tossed a wrench and told to fix the engine while Bryce posed for the brochure. I didn't say a word. I just nodded like I'd done 100 times before, but my stomach tightened. That afternoon, I was finishing up model outputs when he showed up. No knock, no intro. Just leaned halfway into my cube like we were already buddies. "You must be the numbers guy. Excited to jam with you." Jam with me? What the hell was that even supposed to mean? I gave him a half nod and went back to typing. He lingered, waiting for some warm welcome. Didn't get one. By week 2, the emails started. "Client wants to see retention breakdown by segment. Handle this." No context, no details, just handle this. Like I was his assistant. No, please. No, thank you. Just that same smug tone in every message. He started cutting me out of client calls. Told Alan it was more efficient if I just worked in the background. I saw my own charts get presented without a single mention of my name. Full slide decks lifted from the shared drive and slapped into his fancy pitch decks, rebranded with his initials. And every time I brought it up, he hit me with a, "We're all on the same team here, Matt." Then, on a Thursday at 5:12 p.m., just as I was shutting down for the night, he strolled into my cube like he owned the floor. "Shoot me your login," he said. "Need to grab some visuals for a client preview." I turned in my chair. "That folder's not ready." He shrugged. "No worries, I'll only pull what looks good." And just like that, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. A thief in a suit, smiling while he stripped me for parts. I didn't even bother grabbing dinner. I walked straight back to my desk, dropped my bag, and woke up the monitors. If Bryce wanted to treat me like a back-end workhorse, fine. But I wasn't letting him steal another inch from me. The office was dead quiet, just the hum of vents and the click of my keyboard as I opened a brand new folder on the shared drive. Stevenson, Der Final Reports. Jess L. Clean, organized, innocent enough that no one would question it. Inside, I built 6 files, each polished enough to fool anyone who only cared about shiny graphs and clean color palettes. Real-looking, professional, and wrong in the exact ways a poser like Bryce would never catch. File 1. Customer Trends, Q3. I built a gorgeous layout. Bold heat maps, sleek charts, crisp arrows. Then I flipped the key metric so it showed a 20% drop in loyal customers. Reality was the opposite. Retention was record high, but he wouldn't know that without checking the source data. File 2. Revenue Forecast. I pulled numbers from our Australian division, converted them wrong on purpose, and let the error inflate revenue by 9 million. It still looked believable, especially to someone chasing big, flashy gains. File 3. Market Segment Priority. I dug up an old segmentation model from 2013, the one built around suburban boomers, and dressed it up like a brand new discovery. Meanwhile, Stevenson's actual customer base was largely buyers in the 25 to 34 range. Files 4 through 6 followed the same pattern. Beautiful dashboards, stupid conclusions. The kind of work only someone who didn't understand retail analytics would parade around with a straight face. Then I built the real versions. Accurate, tight, backed by 3 separate data pulls, and I locked them under my own account with restricted permissions. No one could touch them without leaving a footprint. I wasn't done, not even close. I opened a private log and documented every detail. Timestamps, version histories, source files, formulas, even the metadata on my own drafts. Then I saved screenshots of each file's creation record. If Bryce wanted a war, I'd give him documentation so airtight it would choke him. Around 9:30, I heard footsteps and froze. Thought maybe security was making rounds. But then I recognized the lazy rhythm, Bryce's fancy loafers. He wasn't even subtle. I minimized my windows, slid my chair back, and waited. From the corner of my eye, I saw him at his desk, logging into the shared drive like he was entering a candy store. He clicked into my folder, hesitated for a beat, then started downloading everything. All 6 files, one by one. He didn't select the read-only option. He didn't check source data. He didn't even glance at the version notes. He just dragged them into his own folder like a kid grabbing Halloween candy. Then he did the dumbest thing he could have done. He renamed them, took off the ML, put his initials instead, BK for Keen and Bryce, like the files had always belonged to him. I watched it happen in real time from the admin panel. Every rename, every download, every access timestamp burned into the logs. Our system recorded everything, even the device ID, and he had no clue. When he finally walked out for the night, whistling like he'd just solved world hunger, I clicked the refresh button one more time. His fingerprints were all over my trap. So I saved the logs, closed the laptop, grabbed my coat, and headed for the elevator with a single thought burning in my chest. It was time to make him trip over his own ego. Next morning, I walked into the Friday stand-up and found Bryce already in front of the screen. Sleeves rolled just enough to show off his watch, voice smooth like butter. "We've uncovered some surprising trends," he said, clicking through my dashboard like he spent all night on it. "This chart here shows a 20% dip in loyalty engagement. Eye-opening stuff." Kevin, junior analyst, sharp kid, narrowed his eyes at the graph. "Are we sure that's right? We just ran a retention promo last quarter. Redemption rates were through the roof." Bryce didn't even blink. "Disruption doesn't always feel right," he said, smiling. "Sometimes truth challenges our assumptions." I sat in the corner, nodding like a good soldier, while my fingers tapped quietly under the table. Every claim he made, I logged. Every chart he presented, I tracked against the original file name, metadata, and access history. His fingerprints were all over the mess, and I wasn't about to stop him from burying himself in it. For the next 3 weeks, he rode the lie like it was a company car. He stripped my name off every model and replaced it with his initials. Walked into meetings with printed decks and buzzwords, talking about customer churn velocity like he invented predictive analytics. He pitched Stevenson's execs on segmenting by retirement age, all based on that dummy file targeting boomers. Didn't even blink when someone asked, "Isn't our average buyer in their early 30s?" And the worst part, nobody questioned it. They nodded, smiled, clapped when he used phrases like reimagining the loyalty pipeline. Meanwhile, I was told to stay focused on deep data work and not distract the narrative. That was Alan's phrasing. Don't distract the narrative. Like facts were a problem. Bryce cut me from every call that mattered. Told clients I was heads down on infrastructure. Hell, he even pitched a webinar, Modern Retail Segmentation, a fresh framework, live stream, big crowd. He used 3 of my dummy graphs word for word. I watched it on mute with a bag of pretzels in one hand and a notepad in the other, writing down every false stat he quoted like it was scripture. No one noticed the segment breakdowns were off by 5 years. No one caught that the customer satisfaction heat map was literally inverted. But the moment that made my jaw clench, he submitted the Stevenson deck, the poisoned one, to the goddamn National Retail Intelligence Conference. Flagship event, press coverage, recorded sessions, the whole industry would see it. I didn't say a word, didn't slam my desk, didn't write any warning emails. I just got back to work. I built the real models, quietly and methodically. I kept the real numbers backed up 3 ways. I ran quality checks on every figure, built proper visuals, and stored them in a folder only I could touch. Every single time Bryce opened one of his versions, I documented it. Every download, every rename, every Slack message where he asked someone to tweak this chart for the deck like he was hands-on. He never asked me for input again, didn't even make eye contact in the hallway. That was fine. I didn't need him to see me. I just needed him to walk right into the fire I'd already lit. It was late Friday when Lisa from sales swung by my desk, coffee in one hand, gossip in the other. "Hey," she said, low voice. "Bryce already sent the Stevenson preview package." I stopped typing. "To who?" "Exec team, CFO included." Janet replied, something like, "Some of these projections seem unusually optimistic. Let's dig in during Monday's session." Lisa shrugged, sipped her drink, and added, "He took off the draft-only tag before sending." My jaw clenched. That wasn't a preview. That was a commitment. I thanked her, waited until she walked away, then opened my backup drive. I pulled every real file and started comparing side by side to the poison ones Bryce had taken. I checked for edits, metadata, timestamps, anything he'd touched. The winter inventory planning file. He didn't change a thing. Still had Iowa stores stocking swimwear in January. If Stevenson had followed that forecast, they'd have crates of bikinis buried in snowdrifts. Another file, churn analysis by loyalty tier, showed the platinum members dropping off a cliff. The actual numbers said retention was at a 5-year high, but Bryce hadn't noticed. He was too busy polishing his talking points. I documented everything again. Screenshots, logs, Slack history, even down to the file access from his laptop's MAC address. Then I called a buddy of mine, not company counsel, but sharp, knows how corporate knives get twisted. I sent him the full report with a short message. If I disappear on Monday, here's why, just in case. I spent Saturday tightening the real deck. Clean visuals, real numbers, bulletproof logic, no fluff, no overselling. Just the truth. The kind that holds up under cross-examination. By Sunday afternoon, I could barely sit still. I took a walk, tried to read, ate half a sandwich and tossed the rest. My phone buzzed at 9:22 p.m. Alan Pierce. Subject, Stevenson meeting. Short email, 2 lines. "Matt, please bring the documentation back up for tomorrow's Stevenson meeting." That was it. No context, no CC, no smiley face. It was bait. I knew exactly what Bryce had done. He'd gone full send with the fake numbers, built his whole presentation around my trap, and now he was hedging. Alan's email was the insurance policy. Just in case something got questioned, I'd be there to take the fall. Backup scapegoat. Smart move. If you're playing with idiots, I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I loaded my flash drive with the full real deck. Charts, data tables, logs. I printed hard copies too, old school. Packed everything in a folder and zipped it shut like a courtroom exhibit. When I finished, I stared at my laptop screen. Bryce thought he'd outpaced me, outranked me, outsold me. But he'd forgotten one thing. I never stopped keeping receipts. And tomorrow, he was walking straight into the shredder. The elevator opened to the top floor, dead quiet. Stevenson's boardroom looked like something out of a magazine. Glass walls, polished wood, a skyline view that screamed power. Inside, 15 people sat around a curved table. CFO Janet Lynn was already flipping through the meeting agenda. At the head sat Paul Stevenson himself. Founder, mid-60s, gray hair, sharp eyes that didn't miss much. Bryce breezed in behind me, grinning like he'd just walked into his surprise party. No nerves, no hesitation. He set up his laptop like it was opening night. Cracked a joke about the view. Someone chuckled politely. Then we got started. "Thanks, everyone," he began, voice smooth as ever. "Really excited to share what we've uncovered. This isn't just an analytics refresh. It's a full transformation of how Stevenson Retail sees the future." He clicked to the first slide, the revenue chart. "This model shows a projected 40% spike in Q4, he said, like it was gospel. I didn't flinch. I just looked at Janet. Her brow twitched. "That's optimistic." Bryce smiled. "Just conservative projections based on the new segmentation strategy and adjusted churn assumptions." Then came the next slide, customer targeting. "We're shifting focus to 55-plus consumers," Bryce said, tapping the screen. "Untapped value there." Paul leaned forward, squinting. 80% of our sales come from customers under 35. Bryce waved it off. "That's what makes this such a bold shift. We're moving ahead of the trend." Then he flipped to the inventory plan. Swimwear, December, Iowa. I watched a ripple go through the room. A few raised eyebrows, a low mutter from someone at the end of the table. Bryce kept talking like nothing was off. Janet closed her folder and looked directly at him. "Mr. Keenan, how did you develop these models?" He blinked, stumbled slightly. Through a combination of cross-functional input and proprietary framework logic. Collaborative synthesis, really." Paul looked over at me. "Mr. Langston?" I stood, steady, no rush. "If I may," I said, holding up my flash drive. Paul nodded. "Please." I stepped to the front, unplugged Bryce's laptop, and slotted in my own. No one said a word. The screen flicked. Bryce's fantasy dissolved. Slide 1. Actual Q4 revenue projections. 6% growth, modest, real. Slide 2. Loyalty engagement. Retention was up, not down. Slide 3. Age segmentation. 71% of customers between 25 and 34. Then I dropped the receipts, file logs, timestamps, original names, versions he renamed and stripped, Slack messages where he forwarded my files and added notes like, "Clean this up from my deck." Screen captures from the admin panel showing when he pulled each file from my folder. Janet leaned in, jaw tight. "These match the files we received last week." Paul kept his eyes on me. "And the swimwear? Originally tagged seasonal hold, draft only." Bryce pulled it before final validation. Bryce finally stood. "Look, there's obviously been a miscommunication." Paul held up a hand. "You're done." Silence. Bryce stood there, mouth open, chest rising like he might say something else. He didn't. Paul turned to me. "Mr. Langston, do you have a version of this presentation we can actually use?" "Yes, sir," I said, and opened a clean deck labeled Stevenson, Final, M. Langston. Bryce was gone by noon. No warning, no exit speech. Just a security guard waiting by his cube while he packed up his laptop and that overpriced leather folio. He didn't even look at me when he walked past. His badge didn't scan at the elevator. They'd already deactivated it. By close of business, his name was wiped from every shared drive and document trail. No more Keenan Budget V2. Just a blank space where he used to pretend to lead. That afternoon, Alan called an emergency all hands. Stood in the center of the bullpen like he was breaking big news. "Effective immediately," he said. "Matt Langston is now head of data strategy. He'll lead Stevenson going forward." I didn't say anything, just nodded and walked back to my desk. But as I passed through the room, people looked up. And this time, They actually looked me in the eye. Some clapped. A few just nodded like, finally, no balloons, no cake. But I'll take respect over cupcakes any day. I spent the rest of the week doing what should have been done years ago, building a real team. No more suits, no fluff. Just sharp analysts who had been overlooked and buried behind buzzword clowns like Bryce. People who gave a damn about the numbers, not just the narrative. We didn't need transformation experts. We needed people who knew how to build models that worked. Janet Lynn, Stevenson's CFO, mailed me a handwritten note 2 weeks later, thanking me for keeping the project honest. It's framed above my desk now, right next to my first Stevenson login badge. The project launched 6 months later, under budget, on time, hit every metric. Forecasts matched reality, and Stevenson used our tools to open 12 new locations by Q3. Clean execution, zero drama. Bryce's LinkedIn went dark. Last update was him consulting independently out of Tampa. Word was he pitched himself to 3 firms and got passed over for all of them. Then, about a month after we went live, I got an email from him. Subject line, "Coffee sometime? I think we should talk." I didn't reply, didn't even open it. I just archived it and moved on. Some things don't deserve closure. These days, my new office has windows. 3rd floor, bright light, no flickering bulbs. My name's on the door now, same font they use for directors. I sign off on every strategy document that leaves this company, and every file I make still includes my initials.